Hi everyone, in this video I am going to show to you how we can use Laravel as our backend along with React as our front end. They will be bind together using Inertia JS, and I am also be showing here how we can use tinker command in Laravel that will be used to seed our database with sample users. First, let's download the Laravel framework using this command. So the demo-app is the name of our Laravel framework here, and I'm gonna be choosing the React as our starter kit, and we'll proceed with Laravel's built-in authentication and PES framework for our testing. Okay, now it is prompting us to run npm install and npm run dev. This is required for our React application. So let's just choose yes on this case. Okay, great. So the npm has been successfully installed, but you notice that there is a three vulnerabilities displayed here, but we can easily fix that by running npm audit fix. First, let's cd into our demo app. So by the way, this is the Laravel folder structure on that. So now we are inside our demo app. Let's run here npm audit fix. Okay, now we have zero vulnerabilities here. Now in my case, before I will run the composer run dev, I always go to .env first, and then I'm gonna change this to whatever name of our application may be. So let's say here we call it demo app, and then let's go proceed to this database connection. So Laravel is shipped with SQLite by default, so we will change it to MySQL. And then in this case, I will also gonna change the port number to 8889, and then I'm gonna call this database name as demo underscore app underscore db, and then the password is going to be root. Okay, save that, and then we are going to run this command to migrate that one to become a table. That will be php artisan migrate, and it's gonna ask if we are really sure to create this database, and since we don't have that, it does not exist yet in our MySQL. So let's run this by hitting yes. So the migration has been completed. That means that we now have a database along with this default table in the database. So we can easily check that using php artisan migrate colon status. So if you see all our migrations has been run successfully. Now we can see how it looks like by default. So let's say composer run dev. So by running composer run dev, it is going to create the development server that we can use. So this one, it's in the 127.0.0.1 colon or port number 8000. So you can go back here and look at that here. So by default, this is our Laravel application, completely set up with default login and registration page. And then if we refresh our database, we can see now that we have this database called demo underscore app underscore db, and inside our users table, this is still empty. So in here, we can register here. Let's say I'm gonna say Rod's Tech, for example, and then Rod's Tech IT Solutions at gmail.com. Let's use this as the password. Create an account. So automatically, the registration is successful. That is why we have been redirected here to the dashboard of our application. So we are free to customize this dashboard as much as we want. And then if we refresh our database, we now have our first record in the users table. All right, so let's go back here to our application. Let's open up here new terminal, and let's close our .env file. So the thing I'm gonna show to you here is that Laravel 12 now is shipped with a React, Vue, and Liveware, depending on which front end framework did you choose during installation, and it can be found here in the JS folder. So you can see that by choosing the React, Laravel added all of this folder structure for our React components, but this one is using a TypeScript. So that means we will proceed here using a TypeScript. So the first thing that we are going to look at is that in this example here, we can see we have a views, and if you look at the views, this view, this app.blade.php is using the blade file. Okay, but we will not gonna be using a blade file, but this is the main entry point of our applications in order to run. But let's just close this one, and in here, this is the default pages that we are seeing. In the layouts, we see there is the authentication layout, and we are also seeing header, and then we have a sidebar, and then for authentication we have this card and simple and split. So the auth card is what we are seeing during the registration and the login page. So in the dashboard.tsx, this is what we are seeing here, the dashboard.tsx. All right, but so let's go now and create first. Let's say we don't have a controller. I mean, we have a controller here called controller.php, but we will not gonna be using this default controller here. We are going to create our own controller, and let's say our goal for this video, by the way, is to create a users using factory, and then serve that in the front end using the React. And so to do that, we have to create the controller first, because we will be using this Laravel framework as our backend, right? So let's create the controller by running this command, php artisan make controller, and we'll call it user controller. Oh, sorry, we still need to cd into our demo app. All right, so now we are in the demo app. Let's clear our terminal and let's run this again. Now we have our controller. Let's open up our controller. So in this controller, we will be interacting with inertia, and we will be also interacting with our users table via our user model. So we can use used app models, and then afterwards we can emphasize user model here. So this user model represents our users table, by the way. So also we use inertia here, like that. This inertia, we will use this inertia to render our page. Okay, so this is the binding component that connects both the front end, which is React, and back end using the Laravel. So let's create here a sample function. We will call it index. So let's say public function. We'll call it index, like that. And then let's say we want to retrieve all the users from our users table. And by the way, currently we don't have we only have one user here. All right, so that means that if we're gonna retrieve, we'll only get one record, but we will see that, so that we'll have a at least 10 users. So for now, let's say we'll get all the users, and that will be using the model we have inherited above, using this user here. And then we are going to sort that into the latest order, for example, using the latest built-in function in Laravel. And we say we only want to take 10, for example, or take 5, it depends. Let's say we're gonna take 10, and we're gonna get all that users, and then we will return that to the view via our inertia, like this. And then we will call the render function from inertia. Okay, and then don't forget a semicolon here, and then inside here we will pass the location of our um, React component. So we'll provide the users folder, which are this folder. We don't have it yet, but we'll create it later on. That will be inside our pages. So we're gonna create a users folder here, and then we're gonna also create a file, TypeScript file using index. All right, and then we're gonna add a comma here, and we'll pass an array. So for example, we will pass all these users to our index.tsx file later on. So let's create a users here, and then we will pass that values, the users, like that. Okay, so meaning to say, in this part, we will return all the list of users that we have. We will pass that to the index.tsx that we will create later on. We'll pass that using inertia render, and this is the way we do that. This is an array, so meaning to say that if we were going to access the key of this array, it will provide the values for us. All right, so let's go ahead and create that folder called users. That should be inside these pages here. Let's just right click here and create users, and inside these users we are going to create index.tsx. So let's go here, say index.tsx. So because we will be using here TypeScript for that. By the way, we don't need semicolon here because this is an array, so let's just remove that. And now that we have emphasized our index function here, we can now use this and pass this via our web.php. So let's create or open up our web.php first to add a route. And in this case, we already have the inertia here. This is created by default for us when we downloaded Laravel. And then the first thing we need to do here is we inherit the user controller, this one. So we need to pass that here to the web.php so we can use that. That will be using app http controllers, and then we can say user controller. Oh, by the way, this one is just the location of where we can find our user controller, and we do that by passing the app http controllers, and then we can see our user controller here. So going back to our web.php here, now that we have inherit this one, we can just go, let's say for example, we have this route here, it's protected by middleware. So this is if you wanted to protect your route using middleware, and you will only display your page, or you will only let the user to access the route as long as they have successfully registered and log in. You can put that inside this middleware. But for the simplicity of this video, I'm gonna put my route outside of this middleware. So I'm gonna say route colon get, and I'm gonna give it a name. I'm gonna call this one as let's say for example users dot index. Okay, so this will be the name of my route. When I am going to access that, I'm gonna call it users dot index, and then I'm gonna pass here the URI. I'm gonna call simply as users. I'm gonna pass here the user controller that I have inherited above, and then I'm gonna call the access the index method or index function, which is inside our user controller. All right, so this is ready. Okay, the route is ready and the user controller is ready, but our index.tsx file is still currently empty. So let us create this one first before we can use this one. Let's say import, we will be using React, okay, from React. All right, so next we're gonna be importing the let's say the head. Okay, head, like that. This is coming from Inertia JS and React. And then aside from that, we can add here a type. We say user, and let's create so this is an object, so but we just use here type. So this object is of type user, and then let's say ID should be a number. Okay, by the way, this kind of doing here is like we are giving the TypeScript specification, no, or notation. Let's say the ID suppose should be a number. Okay, so if we pass an ID which is not a number, TypeScript is going to compile that with error. So let's say here name should be a string, and then email should be also a type of string. All right, and then another type that we're going to add is the props. By the way, this type here is created by using the uppercase here for the first character. Okay, this is a standard for TypeScript. And then we're gonna pass users, and then we're gonna say this is a user array. Okay, this type is props, and then these users here should be of type array. All right, so that's what we have. By the way, I should have make it uppercase here. All right, so that is ready. Then let's go down at the bottom. We say here constant, and then we pass index, and then we'll call the react dot fc. Fc is a function component. You can see that here, react dot function component. So fc is just a shortcut for function component in React. And then in this case we will pass the so we'll pass here the props. This props now is coming from here. Okay, props, and we will add here equal sign, and then inside this equal sign we'll pass this it's like a parenthesis for a function, but it doesn't have a name. And then this one will pass the users. Okay, these users now is coming from here, and now it's using it's throwing an error because we're not yet using it. So we can just go here inside this parenthesis, and then we pass that arrow there, and like that. Oh, wait a minute, this one should be, we don't need this actually. Yeah, just remove that one and put it like that. Unexpected token, did you mean arrow? Okay, so we got fc props. I'm gonna close that here, and then we got props here, equal sign, and then we pass our parenthesis. Inside that we pass curly braces with users, then we pass the arrow and our curly braces here. Okay, so it's currently throwing an error, but don't worry, let's leave it like that for now. Let's pass here a return statement like that, and inside this return statement, let's use this shortcut here, and let's say head, and then we give it, this will be a closing for that, and we say title, and we call this one as user list. And then after that, by the way, it's still throwing an error, expression expected after the return. Yeah, okay. And then after the return, we use this one, we got a head. Okay, let's continue. Let's say we have a div. Okay, and then this div is gonna be like that. Let's give this a class name. We will call this one, I will give it a padding of 6th. All right, and then let's add here a h1 tag, and then this h1 tag, let's just put it this like that, and or maybe we leave it like this, and then we give it a class name, and then this will also be text dash, let's use this one, extra large, and then let's make it bold, and also add a margin bottom of 4, and then we will call this users. And below that users, let's add a ul tag. Okay, let me just move it into like that, and then or all right, so far this is all good. Div puts, let's put that, oh yeah, I think we can push it to the h1, align with the h1 tag, and then we can add now our class name here, and then this will be spaced dash, let's use vertical of 2. All right, and then okay, and then inside here we will pass this one here, and in here we say users dot, okay, not uppercase but the smaller one, so that will be coming from here. So users dot, we're gonna map that using like built-in map function, then we will pass the user again, and then we'll call this, and then like that. And also aside from that, we can now add our li here, and then here we can pass a key, and key should be the id of the user, so user.id. all right, and don't forget, give it a class name. We'll give it a padding of 4, a background of white, and make it round, make, okay, just rounded. Okay, rounded, and let's give it a little bit of shadow. Okay, like that, a little bit of shadow, and then inside this li tag we can push here, we say paragraph tag, give it a class name, and let's just make this a little bit large, so LG. And then font should be medium, and then, or any kind of font weight you can use here. And then we'll display here the name of the user, and then another one here should be for the email, so that will be text. Let's use gray of maybe 600, and then here we can pass user dot email. Okay, but we still got an error. Let's just go outside here first, and let's export this one, export default. We call the index like that. So let's troubleshoot this one here first, because the first error we have is this, expecting a comma. Expecting a comma. Oh, by the way, this one is not an semicolon here, because this, oh yeah, that's okay for semicolon. And okay, so index react.fc, and then we passed, I think I made a mistake. This one is not needed, so let us just remove this part here. Okay, now no more error on this line 14, but we still got error on our line 21. It says that type void is not assignable to type React node. So let's have a deeper look here. So that will be users, and then users.map, and then inside that map we have to pass a user and then array. Okay, is void is not assignable to iterable. Okay, we have here ul space, we close that here. Let's move that here, and users.map user, that's closing here, and inside that we pass the user. Okay, hold on, users.map, okay, so this is the example of the TypeScript correcting our code. So users.map, okay, I think the problem is this one, because I'm using here this one, which is not supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, let's also change this one to be like that. All right, so I think all the errors have been removed now. So this is the power and the advantage of using using TypeScript in JavaScript, because even if we are not yet going to run our code, TypeScript already pinpointed and already recognized the error, so we can correct that before running our code. All right, so this is already okay here. If we go back to our app.tsx, make sure that your app.tsx is set up accordingly. But in this case, this is already set up accordingly, because when we download Laravel, we choose React as our starter template, so this is already okay. But the thing here to look at is that we have the here, so these pages, and then we have here this one $sign. So whatever is inside in this this serves as like placeholder here. So whatever is the pages inside this folder called pages, this will be scanned and imported. Okay, and so let's try this one. by the way, before we can try that, we don't have any uh, more than one record here in our database. So we can open up our terminal here, and we can run php artisan tinker like that to enter to the tinker mode. And so if you're gonna say if you're gonna look at, let's say, app models, and we say user dash colon colon all, hit enter, you see that we only have one record here. Okay, that's we registered a while ago. But let's say we wanted to create at least additional 10 users here, so we can easily run this command. Let's say, for example, use, or say, app models user all, but let's remove that, and then inside that, after the user, we can call a, sorry, we can call the dash dash factory like that, and then we can say count until 10 users, and then we can say create. Okay, let's run this to see if this is gonna be work. Oh yeah, so it worked. It's gonna add here a fake users so that we can use that. So we have at least 3 here, and then let's run that again. So it will generate a random test users, 10 random users actually. So let's do until we have 10 here. All right, that's the end of that. So meaning to say that if you look at that again, you say app models, we say user all, we should be able to see all the users we have already. So that's good. Now we can close this terminal here, and then we can run okay, let me run php artisan migrate first, just to make sure everything's okay. Yeah, that's, so it shows nothing to migrate, so we can now run composer or run dev for that. Yeah, okay, but I think we already have the composer run dev running here. Let's see, what's this one, too few arguments in. So I think we got an error here. How about, but this one looks okay. Let me just close this other terminal here, or development server, and then let's use this one here. It's 8,000, but I'm gonna rerun that to get yeah, this one, to get 8,000 by default. And let's go here, and then let's refresh that one. Okay, looks like everything's okay, but we're not in that, we're not going to look at that here in the dashboard. But we can see that, remember that in the web.php, we specify that it's called users. So we can have a look on the result here by going into our users URI and hit enter, and now you can see all the list of users we have here. It's yeah, it's 11, a total of 11 users. And yeah, so this is how we do that. We have that in our database, the list of users we have here, and this is rendered via our Laravel backend. In the controller, we pass the data, return the data using inertia, and being rendered to the front end using our React component. Alright guys, so that's it for this video, and thank you very much for watching.